and I was so thrilled. And I just have to say that for those of us that are widows, and for those of you that have been widowed a long time, you know, if you had small children, you know what a jockeying game it is to like get your children places and do all that. And my crazy sister decided to have a baby yesterday, which totally jacked up my plans for childcare tonight. So my aunt in Florence, she was so gracious to come and help me with my kids tonight so I could still be with you, because my parents are flying out to go to the big city of New York to be with my baby sister who had her first baby yesterday, which we are so thrilled. And she's precious. Her name's Piper Blair, and everything's good. But they weren't going for a couple of weeks because my brother-in-law was off work, and then my sister, after having the baby yesterday, she called my mom. She was like, I need you to come Thursday. So, you know, as strong as you think you are, until that baby pops out, like, you have no idea how much help you need. And my sister quickly found out that that was going to be the case for her. So I'm just going to share my story, just do a brief sweep over my life. And God did give me a pretty, it's exciting to me just because I feel like it is for you. It's for me where I am in my life. And honestly, every time I go and talk, it's something different because I'm just in a different place. Like every time I go, God's just revealing new things about my own grief journey and where I've come from and where I'm going to. But in 1994, I met this handsome little guy. He drove through the parking lot in a Toyota Celica in 1994 at the University of North Alabama. And back then, like, spoilers were real cool. Do y'all remember what a spoiler is? And he had the license plate T-Faust on the back, and he was just a cutie, frankly. And I told my friend who I was walking with on bid day for my sorority, and I said, I don't know who T-Faust is, but I'm going to go out with him. And so through much, jockeying, I guess you'd say, I just love that word tonight, I ended up having a date with him in October of that same year of 1994, and I graduated on May the 16th of 1998 and married him. I'll show you a picture from our little wedding. There's us in college, and there's our wedding. My daddy, he said, Rachel, you can have $10,000 or you can have a wedding. Well, I'm the dummy that chose to have the wedding. Like, I don't know why I didn't take the money and run. Now, if I had that chance to do it over, I would have taken the money. But anyway, so I was the first one of my friends to get married. I was 21, and honestly, to get married at 21, it's like a teenage bride for some of you. It's like that's really young. So, graduated one weekend, married the next weekend. Life was so good, and there we are. We moved to Tuscaloosa. I went to the University of Alabama for graduate school, and then Todd was working as a drug rep for Eli Lilly and Company. Our life was good, and they offered me a job, and so we moved back to Florence, and we were like Eli Lilly and Company headquarters, both drug reps in Florence, Alabama. Both sets of parents were there. It was just like life was amazing, honestly. And about 3.5 years into marriage, the grandparents were like, okay, hello, when's the baby coming? Like, what are we waiting on? Let's get on with this. And we were like, okay. So we had gone to lunch, and we all remember where you are on September the 11th. It's like the day JFK died. Everybody has their story. Like, where you were the day of September 11th. Well, for me, September 16th of 2001, which was just 5 days after September 11th, was truly my September 11th, because this sweet, precious husband of mine, this is the last picture taken of him, but we went to, we had gone to church, we were talking about babies. Life was, it was just good. I don't know any other way to describe it. We were, dual income, and had a beautiful home in Florence, and, talking, we were real involved in our church at Highland in Florence, and that day, I went to a wedding shower that afternoon, which is what, I say this all the time, but every good Southern woman, you either give a wedding shower, you host a wedding shower from 2 to 4, you give a baby shower, or you host a baby shower from 2 to 4 on a Sunday afternoon. And so that's where I was. I was in a wedding shower, and Todd went to play a game of pickup basketball with several of his good friends. He was 27 years old. He had run 5 miles the day before. And that afternoon, I got a phone call as I walked in the door, and my best friend at the time said, I just want you to know, Todd's been hurt. I think he broke his leg. And I was like, well, okay, I'm coming. I'll be right there. I was like, oh, my goodness. Playing basketball, you're too old to be doing this anyway. And so I rush over there. When I get there, I see not a broken leg. I see my precious husband in perfect health the day before, who had had an aneurysm, and when he had an aneurysm, he stiffened up and fell back on the concrete, and his spinal cord was severed in an instant. He was gone. And my dear friend David Bockefer, who was a doctor that we called on, he started doing CPR. When I got there, the ambulance wasn't quite there yet, and David said, Rachel, I'm going to go with him and keep doing CPR, and you just drive him to the hospital. And I did as fast as I could. And I will tell you that it was just like you see on the movies. You know, y'all all experienced this. You get the pit in your stomach, and you're like, holy cow, is it over? I mean, because I didn't know at that point. I thought, well, maybe there's a chance. You know, we didn't know all the details. And they came out, and they were like, Miss Faust, we did everything we could. And I was like, oh, my word. And people, when I say hundreds of people gathered, like, I went to church with 1,000 people, so did Todd. People really, you know, for some of you, people may not have been able to believe that your husband passed away. Like, it's like, no, not him. You know, that Todd was Mr. Everything. He was Mr. UNA. He was president of his fraternity. He just had a ton of friends. Everybody loved him. And honestly, I mean, he had run cross country in college. I mean, like, there's nobody, he had like 3% body fat. He's the healthiest man on earth, practically. And for him to pass away, like, people couldn't believe it. I mean, it was just unreal. So they had to come. They went to the hospital, and of course they had to leave. So they had to come to my house. And this precious friend of mine, Melanie Collum, she was standing in my kitchen just like this. We're standing at the bar, and she said, Rachel, she said, I don't know how you're doing this. And I was like, I was crying just like we all did on the night that our husbands died. But at the same time, like, I knew where my husband was. I mean, I knew I was going to see him again. But Melanie looked at me, and when she said, I don't know how you're doing this, it was as if she said, I do not know the Jesus that you know. I don't have a relationship with him. I have religion, and I have